Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us right now live. It's a very special day. I know I probably don't have to tell you because you're here with us. It's CASA's inaugural Thrive Day Stream-a-thon. I'm Ryan Jespersen. I host Real Talk at ryanjespersen.com. It's one of Canada's most downloaded daily news programs. We talk about things that matter to people, including mental health and mental health resources, and some of the challenges that young people and families face in accessing those resources and finding the supports that they need. Today, you, by participating in this Thrive Day Stream-a-thon, are helping do something about bringing awareness and support to kids and youth mental health. You know, CASA is expanding their services right now to reach more kids in more communities with the mental health supports they need. The need, unfortunately, is higher than ever. And for the next hour, I want to let you know that you can expect to hear from some of the inspiring CASA leaders, as well as a former CASA patient who's graciously and courageously sharing her story with us today. Not to mention, we're going to have an opportunity to watch an incredible performance by local artist and songwriter Karimah. All of this in support of the fundraising, of course, that CASA is doing to double the number of kids and youth that they serve. Can you consider giving $5 to Thrive, maybe $50 or $500 or even $5,000? The children and youth of our great city need you. It's my pleasure right now to introduce our first guest. It's CASA Medical Director, Dr. Andrea Yu. Dr. Yu is a dynamic, as you're about to see, very engaging and collaborative leader who's been part of the CASA family since 2018. Over the past 3 years, she's been a community psychiatrist with CASA's trauma clinic and supporting the trauma and attachment group known as TAG, also supporting the concurrent addiction and mental health program known as CAMP. During this time, Dr. Yu has also been an inpatient psychiatrist with the Royal Alexandra Hospital and a community psychiatrist with the Edmonton Early Psychosis Intervention Clinic. Andrea's commitment to leadership and mentoring has resulted in her also taking on the roles of interim zone clinical department facility chief, child and adolescent psychiatry and resident mentor with the University of Alberta Psychiatry Residency Program. Dr. Yu embodies the values of CASA, and as parents to a sweet baby boy and a fur baby, she and her husband are very busy raising a family and being engaged in their community. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Yu.
Thank you, Ryan, for what a lovely introduction. So I want to share about CASA's exciting journey, and I want to share about how excited I am about our journey ahead. With the mission, vision, and values work that we've done, we've completed a 5-year roadmap to keep us focused and guide the way to doubling the number of kids we reach. With more clarity, we're focusing on who we are, what we do best, and how we can be better. We're committed to providing the right service at the right time. Now, we know that mental illness is prevalent. Mental illnesses affect around 1.2 million Canadian children and youth, which means by the age of 25, that number rises up to 7.5 million, about 1 in 5 Canadians. So that's a lot of kids. It's a lot of families, and it's a lot of caregivers. And these aren't just statistics. These are our loved ones, our friends, people we know and interact with daily. Some people would say that mental health is the next wave of the pandemic, but I would actually argue that it's already been here, and it's more visible because of the pandemic. As a psychiatrist, it's been instilled in me long ago in my training to clinically think about each patient and family in a comprehensive way, about biological, psychological, social, and spiritual concerns. So now from an organizational lens, we bring that comprehensive approach to really provide care that encompasses not only the child or adolescent, but wraps around the whole family to really think about them in a holistic way. I am proud of so many things that CASA already does. We see patients and families in clinic every day for diagnoses that range from depression, anxiety, ADHD, addictions, trauma, and acute safety concerns, all the way to relationship challenges with family, friends, and peers. So, for example, imagine a teen who's suffering with their mental health every day and self-harming or cutting. They feel stressed, down, they're missing school, they're falling behind in their grades, and they're just overwhelmed with how to get out of the situation, how to have that conversation. After time, they come into a program such as CASA's, and with the right program, the right therapy, and wraparound supports to really help the whole family, they're no longer self-harming. They're attending school again regularly and improving their grades, and maybe finally even feeling proud of themselves for the first time in a really long time. That's the impact that the services we can do. And that's only done by community supports and donors such as yourselves who help us with our services. Our programs include family therapy, trauma and attachment therapy, adult psychiatry for parents, all the way to intensive day programs that range from pre-kindergarten all the way to grade 12. Our residential program at CASA House is well known for their intensive services, but still, I've heard it's still not enough, and it's still such a long wait. So what can we do with some innovative changes? How can we actually increase our reach, and what would that look like? So first, we'd reach more kids and families, and they'd be able to access these types of services that I've talked about. We'd be able to see kids sooner with literally more people, more space, more collaboration with community partners. We can intervene sooner and develop that comprehensive treatment plan earlier to guide us to provide the right service at the right time. One of the things that we're really working towards is streamlining our services to triage cases better so families aren't telling the same story multiple times over and they're accessing needed resources sooner. But it also means reaching out to our Indigenous community and more rural communities where access can be quite limited. And in the spirit of equity, diversity, and inclusivity, it's about recognizing that that journey may look quite different than the way we've been previously delivering care. Along with breaking down geographic barriers, we're really working to reaching out to vulnerable kids who may traditionally not want to seek care, may not have felt safe seeking care, or can't seek care because of various reasons for being marginalized or transient. So oftentimes we think of our LGBTQ communities and individuals who reside in shelters and may have challenges accessing that care. And we want to make sure that everyone has equal access. So not only are we looking at seeing kids sooner, we're also looking to going to them instead of them coming to us. So for example, building programs in schools or partnering with other places that they may feel more comfortable attending in the community instead of one of our large centers. So we know the need is there, and we know the need is high, and we know that there are good services out there, and we want to collaborate and partner with them to be part of that system to make it more streamlined and accessible. What I love about CASA is that we are about the people. We're here to serve patients and families. We're here to collaborate and provide the best services possible. So I ask you to imagine a community where all children, youth, and their families are provided with timely mental health care and empowered to thrive. And when we're able to reach more kids, we're bringing that vision to life. So I ask that you consider supporting us and helping us with that vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's really remarkable to hear about the important work that's being done at CASA with kids and youth, and to also have the context, to have a better understanding about some of the barriers to care and some of the factors at play that might not be on some of our radar. And we so appreciate that perspective check. Thank you for sharing with us. Next up, we have Karen's story. Take a look.
I worked in the school system for 14 years and worked in business for a while. I got to the point that I felt like I was just doing a job. I didn't feel like I was living my life to its full potential. It felt like I was missing my purpose. Becoming a mom gave me purpose. One of our foster kiddos was 9 years old when he came to our home, and he was quiet. He wouldn't speak to us for days, but we thought maybe it was just his personality of being quiet. We realized there was an issue when he started stealing and never admitting to doing anything wrong. Even simple things like, who put this book on the shelf? And he would say, not me. And he didn't trust us. It felt so sad and frustrating having such a broken relationship with this kiddo.
A child can be quiet for so many different reasons. Maybe it's temperament, it could be a sign of anxiety, it could be a sign of depression. Maybe there's an element that they don't understand what they're being told. In this case, it was related to childhood experiences and developmental trauma leading to insecure attachments despite being in a safe and loving home.
The impact with CASA was overwhelming. Because at that point, my husband and I felt that we were sort of at a dead end. We didn't know how to move forward. And so CASA, when we started taking the TAG program, it was like the doors had flung open and we had hope. We had hope for this child to have a good life and walk the right path. And it was an overwhelming emotion of not feeling helpless.
When we meet children and adolescents who come to CASA, it's so important that we start with an initial screening to better understand them and to get to know their family and ensure that they're connected to the most appropriate service. We really do try to understand the child and the family to the best of our ability. We see it as a partnership as we collaborate to address the concerns that brought the family to us in the first place. It's our hope to empower families to address challenges as they may arise. Teen TAG is our trauma and attachment group, and this group is designed to promote a healthy attachment between teens and their caregivers through psychoeducation, facilitated one-on-one parent-teen activities, and therapeutic processing of their emotions and experiences. Teen TAG is one of over a dozen amazing programs we have at CASA.
When we went into CASA, he started seeing a therapist right away, and then all of a sudden, wow, like we found out more about this child through therapy than we had ever known in 5 years about him. It was the way that they respected what he was going through and the way that they understood where he was coming from that helped us as well.
What I love about working at CASA is that we have the ability to work with children between the ages of infancy and 18 who are struggling with mental health concerns. And we do this in a way that really honors and values the importance of family in their treatment plans. Additionally, we're able to work from a trauma-informed lens, which really recognizes the child's history and what's led them to this place today and how we can help them grow into an individual in the future.
CASA has been life-changing for all of us. It's made me a better person. It's made me realize that we do all make mistakes along the way, and that each step we can do better with the knowledge that they have given us. And I just cannot thank CASA enough.
We are so grateful to our donors. Because of you, we are able to help more families just like Karen's.
How absolutely inspiring. Wow. As we were watching Karen's story, donations have been rolling in, and we want to say a huge thank you to those of you who have leveled up today for kids' mental health. Now's your chance to help support. If you donate now, you'll be helping kids and youth in our community strive to thrive. You can scan the QR code that you see on your screen right now if you'd like to make a donation and contribute to today's fundraising. It's a pleasure to introduce our next guest, who's CASA's CEO, Bonnie Blakely. Bonnie's roots are in the prairies, and she's had a diverse career, nurtured in Saskatchewan, where she worked in leadership positions within the government of Saskatchewan, the Saskatoon Health Region, and 3S Health. In 2015, Bonnie and her partner started a business called Lead to Lean Solutions, which helps organizations transform their business practices. Most recently, Bonnie spent time in the private sector as the chief operating officer for a large multinational produce company. Bonnie is a mom and a stepmom of 7, a sports enthusiast who loves the NFL, European soccer, and Formula One racing. She works hard every day to live up to her personal philosophy, to walk with purpose and lead with grace. Bonnie, over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction and for the opportunity to have you and others help CASA on our journey as we look to support children, youth, and families in Alberta. So first, I just want to start with my roots are in Saskatchewan, but I found my passion for children's mental health in Alberta. Certainly as a mom of lived experience, it's been phenomenal to watch how Albertans have really supported CASA as a nonprofit in the work that we're doing to really support children, youth, and family as we come out of the pandemic. Many of you will know, having been through the pandemic in the last 2 years, that we've seen a lot of research evolving that children, youth, and families are really struggling with mental illness as a result of the last couple of years. And CASA specifically is seeing that we're finding that not only are there more youth and families needing the service, but we are seeing a higher acuity. And so CASA has really been in the last year on a journey to figure out how do we best support our community during this time. And I think like many others, we reached out to the families that we serve, the children that we serve, our community partners, our funders and donors like you, to ask what can we do to be part of the solution. And for us, it started with a re-envisioning of our vision, and that is to ensure that all children, youth, and family can get timely access to mental health care and that they're able to thrive. And I think that's really important from our perspective, that it's about all children and youth. What we found through the pandemic, it's many of our vulnerable communities that were underserved and continue to be, and we have a responsibility to be there for them. It's also important that we ensure that the care that we provide is timely. When it comes to youth and their families, it's really essential that it's done in a timely way so that those interventions can help us get back to our families, back to our communities, and back to what we were doing as children, youth, and families prior to the mental illness that we're experiencing. So what did CASA do over the last while to ensure that that vision can be met? Well, working with our partners, we found that we wanted to make a commitment to our community. And so what we said is we want to double the number of kids that we serve. So that means we want to go from 4,000 a year at CASA to 8,000. And it also means that even though we've primarily been in Edmonton proper and Northern Alberta, we want to expand those services across Alberta to ensure that children and youth get the care that they need. So how are we going to do that? We heard from you that there were 3 ways that we could do that. First, we can expand the current services that we offer. So that's what we're doing. We're looking to expand those services to evenings and weekends and to provide more robust services within the facilities that we currently have. And then we heard from you that online services were something that worked for many of you. It may not be for everyone and may not be for every program, but for some of the families that we worked with through the pandemic, it was a game changer. And so we want to make sure that we leverage that opportunity. And then lastly, as we think about serving all children, what we know is we can't expect all children to come to us, that we need to be where those kids are. And that came from so many of our youth that we talked to during this journey that said, if the service had only been closer to where I was. And so that's what we're doing. So we've made a commitment to work with our community partners to identify where in our community can we be, where kids are, so that we can serve them closer to home. So we're really working hard at making sure that we can do that. And so you're going to find that we're talking to community organizations across Alberta, schools, we're talking to shelters, any group that potentially has a spot for us where we can be closer to the youth to serve. What we know is that we are so fortunate to have the types of donors and the philanthropic community in Alberta to help us get there. As a nonprofit, we depend on you to make this happen. And we know our youth and families that get our service are getting something so needed. It's not only a service to the child, but we make sure that we provide all of those wraparound care around the family. Because what we know is if the family is supported through care, that the child's success will be even greater. And we know that you know that too, and that's why you donate to us every day. So we're really fortunate with whether you're on the Stream-a-thon and you're going to give 5 to Thrive to help us get there, or whether you have decided to come to our gala on May 13th, bought a table, we'll be there to support a table, whatever it is, we know that that contribution will be critical to us. Or if you want to level up for kids, you can go to levelupforkids.ca to make a contribution at any time. I want to say personally, as a mom with 7 kids, hard to believe some days, but we have 2 children who really struggle with mental illness. And what I know, not only in the role that I play, but in my personal life, is that it's services like these that will make the difference in kids' lives. And so I just really hope that you know that we're not only grateful as an organization, but every one of us who works for CASA, many of us who also have personally experienced the need for these services, are just so grateful to you personally as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And thanks for sharing that personal connection with us at the end.
Thank
you. Really
appreciate
your leadership and the work that you continue to do in steering this team. I know that the message will resonate with many people. If you're like me, you're inclined to respond to a call to action. And that's exactly what this is. You know, Bonnie's painted a clear picture for us, as well as Dr. Yu, of the work that's being done, the value of these investments, but of course, what it takes for that work to happen. Would you like to get on board and help CASA achieve these incredible goals? Well, you can by giving. You can visit casaservices.org or just scan the QR code on your screen right now to give. And you can also join the CASA family by becoming a monthly donor. We so value these relationships, these longer-term commitments. And right now, if you sign up as a monthly donor, let me show you this. I'm going to pull my screen down just a little bit so you can see this super soft CASA Thrive Day t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm seeing them around a little bit. They're quickly becoming a bit of a coveted item among Edmontonians. I can tell you there's nothing like a perfectly soft t-shirt, right? You know the value of that. The added bonus is, of course, it announces and celebrates your commitment to Thrive Day. Okay, so that's one option that you have right now to become a monthly donor and make that commitment. And that's something that we would value absolutely. Now, we're going to be celebrating some of your commitments to CASA over this next while, and we're going to keep giving you reasons and, of course, reasons to get excited about the work that's being done. Right now, we're so honored to have Sienna sharing her story with us this afternoon. Sienna was a patient at CASA many years ago, and she's a great example of the incredible work that's done at CASA with kids, youth, and their families. No matter what you call family, sometimes family's extended. Sometimes it's the friends that you've surrounded yourself with. Sometimes it's foster parents. Sometimes it's an auntie. Sienna, welcome. Over to you.
Hi there, my name is Sienna, and I'd like to take a few moments to share my experience as a former youth and how the amazing people at CASA helped change my life forever. From a very young age, I struggled at school a lot. I did well academically, but my report cards always said the same thing. Sienna has so much potential if only she were less chatty and applied herself. And she struggles with keeping on task and is disruptive to other students in class. It was quite predictable, and over the years, it involved many teacher and parent interviews. My mom tried to get me help because she could see how much I struggled with social skills, and every so often I had a teacher who picked up on my difficulties, but I was never assessed because the cost to do so privately was prohibitive. Unfortunately, at that time, girls were woefully underdiagnosed with ADHD, so this wasn't even considered. As I learned to mask my symptoms and developed coping mechanisms, I also developed significant anxiety and depression. My first year of high school involved attending 3 different schools, and my self-esteem was in the toilet. At the end of grade 10, I dropped out of school, moved into my own place, and started a full-time job at a fast food restaurant. I thought that school simply wasn't possible for me, despite my lifelong dreams of attending university and doing really big, important things. I'd given up. When I was 17, I moved to Edmonton and was so lucky to spend time with my aunt, who had 2 sons with ADHD. She noticed familiar patterns and behaviors in me, and it was at that time that I was introduced to Dr. Bremnes and the incredible staff at CASA. I was nervous at first. I come from a family with a legacy of mental illness and suicide, and I was scared to admit that I had struggled as much as I did. But from the very start, Dr. Bremnes and his colleagues welcomed me with open arms and accepted me as I was with zero judgment. I was assessed for both ADHD and my mental health. The day I received my diagnoses and began treatment was one of the most pivotal days of my life. Growing up, I'd always felt like a fish out of water, just swimming upstream in this dry riverbed of insurmountable obstacles. And I thought I was broken, incapable of the life I wanted for myself. Sitting in his office, I felt my lungs fill with self-compassion and relief, and the tears just gushed out and filled that riverbed with hope. In the weeks and months that followed, I began to learn about my different brain. I was taught coping mechanisms and gained keen insights into the parts of me that I struggled with so much. I enrolled in night school after work, made a plan for myself, and began to work towards my goal of completing high school and attending university. I received exceptional support and encouragement from all of the wonderful folks at CASA and access to resources that a year prior had been completely unknown to me. I completed high school with a B+ average and was accepted to the University of British Columbia, my dream school. I challenged myself in ways I'd always wanted to, if only my brain weren't so uncooperative. I entered the corporate world and worked my way up into leadership positions, ones where I could mentor and coach others. And since completing university, I've had the deep privilege of working with many folks who experience neurodivergency and mental illness. And yes, this ADHD girl finished university. It took a couple of extra years and some accommodations, but I did it. It hasn't always been an easy road. I've experienced many ups and downs in the years since my diagnoses, but I can confidently sit here today and tell you that none of my accomplishments would have been possible without the incredible supports I received through CASA. They literally changed the course of my life and have done so for thousands of children, youth, and families across Alberta. You can help change lives by donating towards CASA's goal of increasing their ability to provide services to our kids and youth when the need is at an all-time high. You will be making a tangible, long-lasting gift that could ripple out into this world in ways that you'll never imagine. So I just want to say thank you for being part of our journeys.
What an inspiring story of hope. And thank you so much, Sienna, for sharing your story, and to Dr. Bremnes and the team at CASA doing what you do best, which is making an impact for kids and youth. I want to say thank you to the number of you that have made monthly commitments to support CASA over just the past few minutes, including the name I just recently saw. Sarah, welcome to the monthly roster of supporters. These are such valuable relationships. Again, if you'd like to learn more about making a commitment to CASA, or you'd like to step forward, whether it's 5 to Thrive or a larger one-time sum, a monthly commitment, whatever the right fit is for you, whatever you feel compelled to do. Of course, there is the QR code on your screen. You see that throughout this afternoon's Stream-a-thon. And then, of course, you can also check out levelupforkids.ca. We've all been looking forward to this. Next, an inspiring musical performance by local artist and songwriter Karimah. Guests, please welcome and enjoy. Karimah?
Hello, I'm here to sing my song, Be Good to Me, that I wrote during a very lonely and unsure time of my life. And it was only through singing it after I had already finished the words that I realized that I wasn't singing to someone else, asking them to be good to me. I was actually asking myself to be good to me. When I look in the mirror and when I hear difficult thoughts, when I question my value, when I feel too sick to go on. So I hope that you can look in the mirror and realize that all you can ever be is perfect. You'll make it through if you decide to be good to me. Pick up up your armor, protect your soul, be good to me. I see your dance, yeah, yeah. Glimmering mirror, watch where you aim it. Oh, your grass could grow. Don't you know? Don't you know? Don't you know? Don't you know? Oh, don't you know? Ooh, that in the night, I'll give you vision to see what I see what I see. So there'll come a day that you can't proclaim. Ooh, you better know this. Perfect is all you could ever be. Love, 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 my love, my love, my love. Oh, take my hand, and I promise to be good to you. You'll know and forget again and again that you're perfect. Oh, you better know this. Perfect is all you could ever be. Ooh. Oh, be good to me, and I'll be good to you. Oh, and in the night, you know that you're perfect. Oh, you better notice. Perfect is all you could ever be. That's what I say. We're always the first ones to forget. Oh, we're perfect. And it's all you could ever be. My hope for you is that you can be good to yourself. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for having me. My name is Karimah. I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and an absolutely wonderful performance. I don't know about you, but my heart is full right now, and that's kind of the idea, and we're really grateful that you're here with us for today's, and you can see it on my shirt again, Thrive Day Stream-a-thon, the super soft shirt that can be yours. You can have it, a fresh new one, not mine, if you make a commitment to CASA, a monthly commitment, and we're so grateful for everybody that is. Levelupforkids.ca, by following the QR code as well. A lot of resources for you to best understand where these commitments are going, where your investment is going in kids and youth mental health. I wanted to welcome back CASA's CEO, Bonnie Blakely, to dig a little deeper into some of the specific programs and the journey to this point to help us better understand what goes into doubling the numbers like we talked about earlier this afternoon. Bonnie, welcome back. When it comes to this journey and plotting out this course, of course, I would imagine the need was very apparent to you. The need was very clear, but how did you set the course for CASA in a direction that you knew that you could take it?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think the truth of it is that our community partners, the children, youth, and family that we serve, as well as our donors and funders, were the ones that told us what the way was. And it started with understanding, as I said before, that we need to be there for all children, youth, and families in a timely way. It's not enough just to provide mental health services. We have to intervene at the right time, especially when it's about children's mental health. And we also need to make sure that we are available to all children and families. And so what we know, especially through the pandemic, is that many of our children, youth, and families from vulnerable communities weren't getting the services that they needed. And to be fair, likely weren't getting them before the pandemic either. And so in talking to the community, we just were really clear that we couldn't continue to do things the way we always did them. We need to do them differently. And one of those ways was to go where the kids are. And what's so fascinating for us about that is as soon as you say to the community you're willing to come to where kids are, the community's really stepped up and said, Jess, here's where we think they are, or here's where they are, and how do we now move to have that service delivered closer to them?
You mentioned community, and I know sort of the whole idea of community is integral to essentially CASA's operation. The understanding that a community is strengthened with these resources, that families have a better chance to not just operate in a healthy fashion, but to contribute to communities with the proper resources. How do you, in a leadership position, stay tapped into community? I mean, what drives that sense for you of connection and accountability and consultation and all the things that matter?
Yeah, I think first, I love that it resonated with you, that word community. It's become one of the values of CASA, which is CASA has a role to play in helping kids get the mental health care that they need, but we're just one part of a community that has to help with that. We know that we also need to work with our Alberta Health Service colleagues. We also need to work with our community organizations like Yes and others who are delivering, services for kids who need shelter. We need to work with our police and others. So it really has to be about more than just us. And I think, it's a mixed blessing to have had, a family that also has struggled with mental illness, but it allows, me as a leader to not only think of myself as part of a community that provides the service, but part of a community who needed the service. And so that really helps me always remind, why are we here? And we really are here for those children, youth, and families. And that's the voices we're listening to as we think about where do we need to be in community and how do we need to deliver that service differently. One of the coolest, I think, parts of the work we've done recently, though, is working with our Indigenous community, which really has said not only are they in need of this service, but they need us to think differently about how it's delivered in order to respond so that we provide in a culturally safe way. And so we're working really hard at that at CASA, and some of our newest services are going to be supporting our Indigenous mental health supports in community and outside of Edmonton.
That's so, to state the obvious, that's such an important focus and such an important investment and commitment that we see organizations and social services and even private enterprise like corporations making. You're starting to see I think a better understanding of the importance of reconnecting in that context. What do you see in the field of mental health, and in particular in children and youth mental health, when it comes to matters in the bigger picture of truth and reconciliation, but also a reinvestment and a re-understanding and a reigniting of interest in Indigenous culture and in Indigenous traditions? I think of conversations, Bonnie, that I have on our show on Real Talk, everything from medical practices and mental health through to wildfire management. There's more of an awareness, I think, in Canada of the importance of reconnecting with Indigenous traditions. I would imagine that's not lost on not just you, but on your team at CASA.
Yeah, CASA is really fortunate. We've been around for more than 35 years, and our history really has been that the services we provide are embedded in the idea that it's more than just, mental illness. When you deal with someone who is challenged in that way, we also have to think about our physical and our social and our psychological, but also our cultural and spiritual. And I think what's really happened over the last few years is just, even for organizations like CASA, it's about reconnecting with that idea and also really being thoughtful. When you talk about community, what does that mean for certain communities to think about, engaging in mental health services when you've come from certain experiences, when you've had, certain lived realities that not everybody has. And so we've really been thoughtful about that as we go forward. And again, it goes back to, being, having humility, which is we don't always know what's best for another community, but we can ask them how we can best serve them. And so in the work that we're doing, especially as we think about truth and reconciliation, it's about ensuring that we ask the community, how do they best want to be served? And then ensuring that as we provide that service, we're thinking about how to make that culturally safe and ensuring that, you know, individuals are heard in the way they need to be. And then go back to, and that we're in the communities they need us to be in. I think too often in Canada, there's a lot of artificial borders. And, you know, as a nonprofit, we're able to say that doesn't matter. If a kid isn't needing care, regardless of where they are, we should be there providing it to them.
Yeah. Bonnie, I know that, you know, a day like today is full of optimism and positivity, and I want to keep it there. But I also think sometimes that reality checks are really valuable, especially when we're talking to people about commitments and what it takes to get to a certain place. You know, CASA has made a commitment here to double resources and to continue to endeavor to meet the need that exists. So let me ask you this. What happens if that doesn't happen? What does that look like for young people? What does that look like for children? What does that look like for families?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, again, I'll just go back to my own lived experience. When you're that parent on, you know, at home on the other end of a line, a phone call or whatever, trying to get the services you need, it is so frustrating when you can't. And the truth is that when you don't get them, it often means a spiral for your family. And you know, you end up being or accessing even additional services. And, you know, and sometimes it takes years to recover from that. But when the service is there and you're able to get it in a timely way, our experiences, it makes a lifetime of difference. And I think sometimes too often we forget that there's more of a toll than just on the individual child. It's also on the family. And it can be generational, which means that, you know, when that happens for a family, it can be 2 or 3 generations before the healing happens. And so really, the answer is this: if we can be there when kids need us in a timely way, the difference is they can thrive. They can find a way to be empowered, to go back into their communities and be successful. When it doesn't happen, it can take generations to fix.
Yeah, and very well said. And I think that these reality checks are important. I mean, these perspective checks for us as well. And, you know, oftentimes we see investment in health pay off, and it's this whole idea of being proactive a lot of times and providing young people the resources they need. So this, I know I might be stating the obvious, Bonnie, but we want to know that these foundations are poured strongly and cleanly, right? And obviously the investment sometimes over time is exponential.
Absolutely. And I think we can learn from our Indigenous community, who's often told us that, you know, if you plant a seed today, it's our grandparents, you know, or a future that gets to benefit from it. It's 7 generations from us. And so often we don't think about the fact that if we start something today, the benefit for, you know, the future, even though we can't see it, will be there. And so that's why you're making the contribution today. It may not be for the child that's needing us tomorrow. It might be for the child that needs us 7 years from now, 10 years from now, because now we're trying to set that foundation for success.
So yeah, amazing. I had an opportunity on my show just this morning. People can, you know, I was going to plug my show at some point, Bonnie, so people can check it out by subscribing to our Real Talk Ryan Jespersen podcast or checking it out on our YouTube. But I had a chance to check in with author Angie Thomas today. She's a New York Times bestseller. Her book, published about 5 years ago, The Hate You Give, was actually turned into a major motion picture. She sold about 4 million copies of the book, and she's just released a new book called Concrete Rose. And she writes to an audience. She told us it's a book about growing up and the Black experience growing up, and it themes on The Hate You Give. The original book themed on a teenage girl, a young Black teenage girl who witnessed a police-involved shooting. Her friend was shot by a police officer, and she was the only witness. It's a very powerful story, and it tackles very difficult issues that people need to wrestle with. But she has this really unique perspective. She writes for 14 to 20-year-olds. And so I asked her about how you write, you know, very difficult subject matter for 14-year-olds in a way that, you know, they can wrestle with and they need to wrestle with. And she told me a story, this quote just this morning, about we would call them a young offender, but a young man in the United States who was incarcerated, who is incarcerated for serious crimes. And he wrote her a letter after reading her book that described essentially to him his experience. And he said to her in the letter, "You care about me because you wrote a story about somebody like me." Mm. And I thought that that was such a powerful testimony where she said to us on the show this morning, if her book didn't wind up in one more hand, that it would still be worth it because it had a transformative impact in that young man's life. Seeing his situation addressed, seeing his scenario prioritized and invested in by people. And I think that that's not lost on me, that this is the second time that we're having this type of conversation, seeing an investment in young people and having a clear understanding by the supporters that are joining us today on the Stream-a-thon that recognize the value of that.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think when you can see yourself reflected in something or that someone values some experience you've been through, and if donors and funders even can appreciate that one of those individuals, they can make a difference in the life of, it's not just that individual's life. Think of who they interact with and carry that through with, including their children and their future grandchildren. So it's so powerful.
Amazing. Bonnie Blakely, the CEO of CASA. Thanks for hanging out with us, Bonnie. Of course, we know that this is a big day for the CASA team, and I'm honored to be a part of it, and it's great to talk to you again as well. We wanted to share something very special with you. You've likely heard of a local rising country music star, Haley Benedict. Well, Haley put a project together specifically for CASA. And I've been telling you about the website, levelupforkids.ca. We want you to make sure you check that out today, levelupforkids.ca. Well, here's Haley Benedict with Level Up.
When the weight of your worries is too much to hold, and you can't find a way to lift it on your own, sometimes your only wish is
Adam, what are you doing here?
Hey.
Welcome.
Oh, I just coming to you live from Vancouver's latest attraction, the barge. As you can see right behind me, it is up for sale. It's $1 million, and it's Vancouver's hottest real estate market, and it's going fast. So, hello everybody.
It's so cool to have you here. I didn't expect you were going to crash Stream-a-thon from Vancouver, BC. This is a very pleasant surprise. I've been looking forward to seeing you next week at the gala.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you and meeting you as well. I'm really excited, and thank you for letting me crash. Just a quick plug to say that we've got an amazing lineup of musical guests, including Kaylee Cardinal, who's going to be doing 3 songs. We have Ariana Whitlow, Erica Newt, the Melisaway brothers, who you can remember from many American productions, including Nick Lachey, whatever he hosted, but it was great. And myself hosting and singing a few songs as well. So I'm really excited.
So cool. Adam Fisher, it's so good to see your face, and we're looking forward to that. That's the CASA Thrive Gala. That's coming up May 13th. That's next week. And of course, you'll be joining us in person as our singing host. Delicious food. Obviously, the Melisaway brothers, I might be their biggest fan in the world, but I can argue that with Nick Lachey some other time.
It's unfair how much talent is packed into that family. It's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, just remarkable. I'm so excited they're going to be there. And the lineup there, Kaylee Cardinal and everybody else you mentioned, is going to be fantastic. So of course, the goal of the Thrive Gala is to raise money and awareness for the good work that CASA is doing with kids and youth. And people can buy their tickets at casaservices.org/thrive. Let me put you on the spot for a second. Why is this a cause that's important to you? Why is this so important to you that you're going to make the trip out and support this?
If there's any one thing the pandemic has made clear, is that mental health is at the forefront of dealing with what people have been going through, and children's mental health and supporting that upcoming generation seeds the future for having those types of difficult conversations and addressing the issues that people are having that really came up during the pandemic.
Amazing stuff. Well, Adam, it's so exciting to have you on board here. We're really looking forward to your performance next. And by the way, timing wise, keep in mind a bonus for you is that seeing as you're traveling to Edmonton this time of year, you might actually be able to catch some playoff hockey.
That's right. We would have tried to make it into the playoffs, but we sucked this year. So
I couldn't help myself. We love to have fun with our friends who get to wake up and look at the ocean every morning from Vancouver. Thanks for popping in on this, and we can't wait to see you next week on the 13th.
Thanks for having me. And if anyone wants to buy this barge, it is available. So
yeah, that might be the best bang for buck on BC's real estate market right now. I don't know.
Absolutely. It's not insulated. There's no roof. Seagulls have pooped all over it. And it comes with the seaside view, as you can see. So it's really great. It's a great opportunity.
Amazing. It's hard to believe that thing is still there. Well, that's Adam Fisher. Awesome, Adam. I had to do to our friends joining us today, to our audience members. I almost did a double take when I saw Adam Fisher pop up. But wait a second, what? I love it. He crashed our party. That's fantastic. He'll be there again. That's the CASA Thrive Gala, May 13th next week. Still some tickets available. We'd love for you, maybe your company, maybe your organization, to consider sponsoring a table, getting your friends together, coming out and celebrating a wonderful evening. Again, casaservices.org/thrive. Hey, I wanted to give a big shout out as well to Jim Rode. Jim, we saw that donation that you just made. Thank you for your $500 commitment today to what we're doing here at Thrive Day. This really means a lot to us and furthers the momentum for these programs that we're supporting through our attendance and our generosity today. Jim, a big shout out to you. Thanks so much. Thank you to our sponsors and to our supporters in the community as well, with whom CASA could not, quite frankly, it just wouldn't happen, couldn't double the number of kids with the mental health supports that are so needed right now. Thank you for your commitment to CASA. Thank you for participating today. And thank you in advance for your attendance at the gala on the 13th. That's next week. And of course, at the golf tournament later this summer. We're looking forward to that. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for leveling up for kids.